Wow. The 68th running of the Daytona 500 did not disappoint. That was just crazy. Hello, everyone. Welcome to NASCAR News. Get so much to get to for the 68th running of the Daytona 500. We're not going to waste any time. So much to get to. Results, standings, how the race finished, the winner, the storylines, the crashes, a couple shout-outs. When I say a couple, I mean a lot of shout-outs to make. Great runs, bad runs, tons to talk about. Let's not waste any time. Let's get right into it. How about we start out with the winner? Tyler Reddick and the 45 team win the Daytona 500. It is his first career win at Daytona, 9th total career win of his complete career in the NASCAR Cup Series, and he only led the final lap, okay? Only led the very last lap. And honestly, you may call me crazy, but I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised by Tyler Reddick winning this. I'm surprised by how he won it, because that was crazy. We'll get to that in a few moments, but I am not surprised he won. He finished second last year in the Daytona 500 to the winner, William Byron. He won a duel, I believe, last year in the 45 machine, 2311. Am I surprised? No, but insane. Tyler Reddick last year went completely winless with 2311, had absolutely no wins. At the end of this thing, he talked about he is expected to win with 2311, and takes the first race of 2026, aside from the Clash, but that doesn't really count. First points race of 2026, and takes the win, leads standings, which we'll get to in a few moments, but takes that checkered flag first, and gets it for team owner Denny Hamlin, who's been having rough times. I mean, we talked about this with the Clash. Priest got it for Keselowski and Biffle and all that issues. Tyler Reddick gets it for Denny Hamlin this time, gets it for Michael Jordan as well. First win for Denny Hamlin as a team owner. He is a team owner Daytona 500 champion and a race car driver Daytona 500 champion. That is a pretty good resume for Denny Hamlin. And Michael Jordan, I mean, this team, they're trying to expand. They had 4 cars, or horses, as Mike Joy said, I don't know why, but 4 cars in this race. Riley Herbst, Corey Heim, Tyler Reddick, Bubba Wallace, they all shared their time up front. Just absolutely crazy to see. This organization is growing, is expanding, and with the trial, the lawsuit, all through the offseason, the victory for 2311, and now they are all of a sudden shot out of a gun, and they are taking the trophy first in 2026. Just absolutely incredible. One huge step forward in 2026, and to start it off with a Daytona 500 win is incredible. Fantastic. Like I said, 2311 as a whole, all 4 cars they entered in the Daytona 500. Corey Heim, by the way, just phenomenal, was up front in that final stage. Bubba Wallace led 40 laps, won stage 2, and then Herbst ultimately changed the outcome of Reddick's race and the whole race in general. Gave Reddick a massive push in turn 3 on the backstretch to help Reddick get a huge run up around the outside. Let's not spoil it. Let's get right to the finish. How we set the stage here. After a long pit cycle, the final pit cycle, a caution flies for Denny Hamlin and Christopher Bell, who come together in the tri-oval. Christopher Bell had heavy damage, blah, blah, blah. Let's get to the finish here. McDowell has not pitted. He can stretch it to the end of the race, and 3 laps to the good. He has 3 extra laps of fuel. So if they had an overtime, he probably would have been great. But 3 laps to the good, to the end. They are green with 4 laps to go. Michael McDowell leads with Carson Hocevar, his teammate, and then Joey Logano as well, and then Tyler Reddick, Bubba Wallace, Riley Herbst, Brad Keselowski, all those guys, Chris Buescher, tons of guys back there trying to win. Some of them their first ever Daytona 500. Brad Keselowski, he wanted it. Bubba Wallace, I mean, all these guys. Hocevar was leading Speaking of Hocevar, on the white flag, Carson Hocevar was leading over his teammate Michael McDowell, Eric Jones, Tyler Reddick, Stenhouse, Logano, Byron, Wallace, Elliott, and Keselowski. On the last lap, coming into the short chute before turn 1, Jones hits or pushes Hocevar on the just uneven on one corner of his car, and Hocevar spins, goes to the inside, collects Eric Jones, Michael McDowell, and others. NASCAR does not throw the caution, and I am so appreciative of NASCAR. Thank you for not throwing the caution. And a huge crash, and other cars on back crash. That is in turn 1. So NASCAR decides to keep it green, and I completely agree with that. They're 3 wide off of turn 2. Chase Elliott on top, Ricky Stenhouse in the middle, and Tyler Reddick on the bottom. Going down the backstretch, Zane Smith, he's on the top, giving Reddick a shove, while in the middle, Stenhouse has no help. And then on the bottom, Reddick is getting a shove from his teammate Riley Herbst down the backstretch. In turn 3, Chase Elliott, again, continues to get a shove from Zane Smith, but Tyler Reddick, after that push from Herbst that just gave him a massive run, he continues to keep that run going and pulls up alone on the outside. Well, Herbst follows him, but doesn't really give him a shove, aside from the backstretch shove, but continues to follow him. Reddick's all alone. He clears Zane Smith. Zane Smith has fallen back. Elliott is right in front of him. He's up the outside, fakes him out, goes back to the inside, and passes him. Passes Chase Elliott. It looked like Chase Elliott was going to win this, no doubt. It was kind of like, what race was that this weekend that it looked like? I don't know. But it looks similar to one of the other races this weekend where Reddick wasn't going to get there. But Reddick had that massive run from Herbst. Big push down the backstretch. And off of turn 4, Reddick goes up the inside. Elliott, he would have made a late block, but he decides not to make any block, and just lets Reddick by, which is ultimately probably the best decision to limit loss of position. And Reddick takes the win, but right behind him, tons of guys are crashing. Herbst tries to move up around Elliott out the outside, cuts off Keselowski, and that just collects everyone. Joey Logano, Herbst himself, Chase Elliott, Stenhouse, Zane Smith, Keselowski, and the only 2 cars to get out of that completely were Tyler Reddick and Chris Buescher, who winds up P7. But just absolutely insane. We talked about it. Absolutely crazy to have Michael Jordan win the Daytona 500. Denny Hamlin, a team owner, winner for the Daytona 500 and driver. And just absolutely crazy for Tyler Reddick to start 2026 like that. With 2025, how disappointing it was with absolutely no wins. Crazy. Congrats to Tyler Reddick and that 2311 team. He picks up P1. Let's go through the top 10 results here. Second for Ricky Stenhouse. He showed up in the final laps with the pit cycle. Third for Joey Logano. He had really good speed. 1 dual 1, by the way. And in the end, he had too much damage from previous wrecks, which we'll get to in a moment. Fourth for Chase Elliott, he won duel 2. Like I said, he looked like he was going to win this race in turn 3. With the shoves Zane Smith was giving him, but I guess it just wasn't enough for him. Fifth for Brad Keselowski, that is really good, considering Keselowski, it looked like he wasn't even going to run this race with his leg injury. But P5 for Brad Keselowski, highest finishing for RFK, by the way, so good for him. Sixth for Zane Smith, really good overall day. Survived the chaos, which is what you gotta do. Gave Chase Elliott a huge push down the back, which kept him even in contention. And just really good result for him. Survived the chaos. So Zane Smith comes up P6. P7 for Chris Buescher. Led laps, was up front in the final stage. Not surprised to see that RFK Ford up front. 8th for Riley Herbst. We talked about him. If it weren't for him, Tyler Reddick would not be in victory lane at all, unless someone else gave him a shove. But Riley Herbst, being a great teammate, gives the shove to Tyler Reddick. Ninth for Josh Berry, pretty solid day for that. Wood Brothers Ford, 10th for Bubba Wallace, led 40 laps, which I believe was the most this race. Like I said, just absolutely incredible. Won stage 2. All four 2311 cars had some sort of good moment in the race. Corey Heim, I believe, ends up 28th, but like I said, he was up front, controlling the pack when they were fuel saving with Christopher Bell and Bubba Wallace. They were all 3 wide, controlling the lane, slowing down the pace, which was really interesting to see. But Corey Heim ultimately got wrecked and was running way back in the pack. Let's get to some other notable wrecks. Let's sort of work backwards from the end of the race to the start of the race for wrecks here. Lap 124, the big one struck. Justin Allgaier had a late block on Denny Hamlin, and he collects himself, Hamlin, Shane, Bowman, Busch, Cindric, Gilliland, Nemechek, Zane Smith, who got some damage, Logano got some damage, Kyle Larson, Chastain, and many others. So that was definitely the big one. But Justin Allgaier did admit it was his fault, so good job for him. W for him, because most drivers don't admit it was their fault. I won't talk about who I'm referring to. Lap 86, there was also a big crash. Off of turn 4, looked like Connor Zilic moved up into Chastain, who came back down to correct into Cody Ware, who hit Chase Briscoe, and then it was just all over the place. And Briscoe, one of those guys who got wrecked, got more damage from Austin Dillon going into the smoke, right into the tire smoke of Chase Briscoe and hitting him, giving him more damage. I mean, I am a little biased, but still, why would you go in the tire smoke of a driver who's spinning? That's Austin Dillon for you. And then there were other minor wrecks, crashes that took out many, many drivers. But I do have to say, 9 DNFs, that's pretty low for a race like this, the Daytona 500. Usually there's like almost, I'd say 25% of the field. I mean, that kind of is 25% of the field, but still, I'd expect like 14 or 15 DNFs, and it just shows that most people went to the garage after their crash and tried to repair just to get back out, because this chase format is so important with every single point. Even for 1 to 2 points like Chase Briscoe or an Austin Cindric who came back out after repairs just to run for that 1 or 2 extra points. And in case someone wrecked and they passed them even though they're a couple laps down. So just shows how important points are in NASCAR. I do have to point out a couple major facts here. Non-NASCAR fans, 66 lead changes among 26 drivers, 5 cautions, which is pretty low for the Daytona 500, for 32 total laps under caution. So, yeah, pretty crazy race. 66 lead changes. That's crazy. And 26 different drivers. I think they said that was a high or something. That is absolutely insane. That 26 of the 41 drivers that started this race led at least 1 lap. That is crazy to think about. Some other shout-outs I have to give. Shout out to Fox for giving tributes to Greg Biffle and Dale Earnhardt on lap 3 and 16. I also want to shout out to NASCAR for keeping all 3 National Series events going and not throwing a caution on the final lap like they have. It seems like they're actually getting in a rhythm, but I don't want to jinx things and make them throw a caution on the last lap in Atlanta, though it is a smaller track, or Echo Park or whatever. It is a smaller track, so would not be surprised to see a caution thrown there. And I also want to give a shout out to NASCAR for starting this race early, because weather was rolling in, so thank you, NASCAR. And a couple driver shout-outs. Corey Heim, like I said, up front, qualified in the top 10 in that first session on Wednesday night, so good for him. Did really well. Was in the top 10, like I said, controlling the field with Christopher Bell and Bubba Wallace. Kyle Busch, also a shout-out. 21 years of trying. Won the pole. Ran up front. Led laps. Ultimately not his race. Zane Smith, like I said, shout-out for him. Was up front. Survived some chaos. Got a top 10. And, yeah. tons of stuff happened for the 68th running of the Daytona 500. But guess what? It's only week 1 of how many weeks? 37, 36 more weeks of this. So get ready, because next week the NASCAR Cup Series heads to Echo Park Speedway, where last year we saw some chaos, controversy. Yeah, controversy. That's what we talk about in NASCAR, but tons of stuff happened this race. Can't wait for Echo Park next week. It's Sunday, I believe, at 3 p.m. Can Chase Elliott redeem himself and win next week instead of this week? Though he probably wanted this week more than next week. I don't know. It's pretty tight between your home track and Daytona 500. I don't know. Enough of me. Next week, Echo Park Speedway, 3 p.m. Sunday. And yeah, that's going to do it. Thank you all so much for watching. First points race of 2026, and 2026 the NASCAR Cup Series is off with a bang. And yeah, that's gonna do it. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed, why not smash that like button down below. If you're new to the channel, you like NASCAR, you're in the right place. Want to consider subscribing down below as well, and I will see you next time for Echo Park. Bye everyone.